Hello and welcome to Woke Watch, and this week I'm doing something different. We won't be looking at any ridiculous woke stories from the internet. I'll be trying an experiment, because a big part of wokeness is excusing one's own terrible behaviour by playing the victim. This victimhood is usually false or entirely self-inflicted, such as a man dressing as a woman going to a swimming pool and being denied access to the women's changing room, screaming transphobia. Or someone saying we live in an oppressive police state after they've been convicted of committing a crime. But for me to be a woke victim should be nigh on impossible. And that's because, to the screamy people who go out of their way to be offended by everything, I am their mortal enemy. I'm a middle-aged, straight, cisgendered or normal white man. Not only that, I'm also happily married, I've got a steady job, and I've had a good year. I've had renovation work done on Disgruntled towers because as a straight white man, I live in a fucking castle. I've had a new car, not just any car, I've had an Audi, and I've had 4 separate holidays. Things are looking good for me. How can I possibly be a victim? So what I need to do is work out which minority group I belong to, and then using woke logic, and I use that term extremely loosely, explain how being a part of that minority makes me terribly oppressed. And luckily, or rather unluckily, I am part of a minority group. Unlike 90% of the population, I am not right-handed. I'm left-handed. How can me, an oppressed left-hander, attempt to live in a society dominated by right supremacy? Under the reign of King James I, who it's fair to say was a rather odd chap, left-handed people were suspected of being witches. Sinister means of the left, and sinistrophobia is a fear of left-handed people. So many of my people were falsely convicted of using witchcraft, black magic, of sending curses. Many were drowned, or hanged, or pressed with rocks, or strangled and then burned, just for something they had no control over. And how does this affect me? Well, it doesn't. But the same could be argued about the transatlantic slave trade. That was shut down fucking years ago by the British, I might add. Yet the woke mob are always out demanding reparations for something that no one alive today can remember. And if we're talking about slavery, let's remember, I'm British. Every time this country has been invaded, the invaders have taken Brits as slaves. The Normans, the Vikings, the Angles, the Saxons, the Romans. So here I am, possibly the descendant of slaves, as well as being an oppressed minority left-hander. If I get many more victimhood points, I can go fucking looting. To be honest, I know I'm not descended from British slaves. My family spent several centuries murdering their way around Scandinavia before settling down in Holland for a couple of 100 years, before moving to England in the 18th century. But we're talking about wokeness, so the truth simply doesn't matter. The Hollywood actor Cary Grant was also left-handed. But in any scenes where he was required to write something down, a body double would be brought in to do the writing for him. A right-handed body double, because it was thought audiences would be too shocked to see a left-handed actor. If they were shocked at that, imagine if they'd known he was bisexual. And in England, up until the 1940s, and in some schools until the 1960s, left-handed children were forced to write with their right hand. So if I woke this up a bit, they were forced to deny who they really were. They couldn't live their truth. In the modern world, a massively disproportionate amount of sinister folks like me are successful actors and actresses. But back to being an oppressed left-handed woke victim. Because left-handers like myself, we have lower life expectancy. Now, part of this is because until the 1960s in the UK, left-handed people weren't thought to exist. So when we suddenly sprang into being, any premature death massively skewed the life expectancy expectations. Also, left-handed people are far more likely to be killed in accidents because us victimised lefties live in a world designed exclusively for right-handed people. So if I get back into a woke way of thinking, or rather lack thereof, I could say, There's a left-handed genocide going on. We're being slaughtered. We're being wiped out. And of course, the left-handed genocide is different to the current trans genocide, because the trans genocide is the only genocide in history where the people being genocided are all alive and well to tell us about it. The rifle used by the British Armed Forces, the SA-80, can only be fired right-handed. So again, the woke would probably argue, why are they trying to stop us joining the army? Don't they want us to be able to defend ourselves? And also, most left-handed people are left-eye dominant. So using a right-handed rifle, they won't be as good a shot. We're just being used as cannon fodder. Where, of course, what we all know is it's much more cost-effective to make it right-handed. And as 9 out of 10 people are right-handed, lefties have to just fucking put up with it. Now, to share some of my personal experience of being an oppressed left-hander. Recently, I bought a new vacuum cleaner. I said I was doing okay. It's cordless, and it has a feature where the trigger can be held open by the operation of a simple switch. But that switch can only be operated with the thumb of the right hand. So for me to use the vacuum cleaner without straining my left index finger, I have to pretend to be right-handed. The inhumanity, it's just a minor inconvenience. As a quick aside, if you know a man who, when presented with a vacuum cleaner, doesn't immediately start singing "I Want to Break Free" by Queen, cut all ties with that man. You don't need that type of negativity in your life. Although saying that, I bet now that video would be considered transphobic. And as a younger man, I used to buy adult entertainment magazines, publications featuring ladies with an aversion to clothing. And in one such magazine, it proclaimed, "It's what your right arm's for." Us lefties are told we don't even toss off normally. Also, some of you may know that my hobby is playing guitar in a heavy metal band. But when I first started learning, as a young lad watching Burt Whedon's Playing a Day on VHS, this great man who'd inspired millions to play the guitar said, "If you're left-handed, don't worry, left-handed people play the guitar just like everyone else," denying our existence. Although, to be fair, there are more left-handed guitarists who play right-handed than left-handed. To me, it makes more sense, because your fretting hand is what does all the hard work. And as we've just covered, since I was an adolescent lad, I've been moving my wrist up and down. Have I done enough? Have I convinced you, the viewer, that by being left-handed, I'm an oppressed minority, in need of the help of the woke left? Is being left-handed similar to being non-binary? Well, no, because being left-handed actually exists. But if I can get the woke mob on side, I can have marches, riots, people shouting "Lefties' lives matter." In fact, the one thing I do object to is the woke brigade are often referred to as leftists. Don't tar me with that fucking brush. As ever, thanks for watching.